The crash site burned like a second sun on the dark side of the planet. Sergeant Darren Cole stood at the edge of the impact crater, his armor cracked, his breath fogging inside the helmet. The storm howled above him, red lightning tearing across a violet sky. All around, fragments of alien metal still smoked in the sand. The battle had ended hours ago, but the silence felt heavy, like something was waiting. Darren scanned the wreck with his rifle raised. His suit sensors blinked weakly. Radiation low. Life signs 1. Somewhere inside that burning wreck, someone was still alive. He sighed and muttered, "Of course." Then he started down into the crater dot. The air shimmered with heat and the smell of scorched fuel. He moved carefully between twisted hull pieces. The wreckage was unlike anything human. Organic curves, pulsing blue veins running through metal. The deeper he went, the more it looked less like a ship and more like a living creature that had died in fire. Then he heard it, a faint cry, weak, female. "Help. Please." He froze. The voice didn't sound human. Softer, musical, trembling like wind chimes underwater. "Stay still." He called, "I'm coming." He followed the voice through the smoke and found her. She lay pinned under a metal beam, one wing-like appendage torn and bleeding with silver light instead of blood. Her skin shimmered pale blue, her eyes gold like dawn breaking over water. For a second, Darren forgot to breathe. He'd seen aliens before, soldiers, smugglers, scientists, but none like her. She looked fragile, almost luminous, too beautiful to belong in a battlefield. She tried to move, but the metal pressed deeper. "It burns," she whispered. "Don't move," he said quickly. He dropped his rifle and jammed a power tool under the beam. The metal screeched, sparks flying. With a grunt, he lifted it just enough for her to slide free. She gasped and collapsed against him. He caught her gently. "Hey, stay with me. You're safe now." Her golden eyes opened slowly, focusing on him. "You are human?" "Last time I checked," he said. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lyra." "All right, Lyra. We need to move before this thing blows." He slung her arm around his shoulder. She was light, too light. Her body shimmered with a faint glow that dimmed with every step. As they climbed out of the crater, the wreck behind them pulsed once, twice, then exploded, sending a wave of dust and heat that threw them to the ground. Darren rolled over, shielding her. When the wind died, he checked her vitals. Weak but alive, she looked up at him. "Why did you help me?" He frowned. "You were dying." "What kind of question is that?" "Humans and my kind are enemies," she said weakly. He shrugged. "Guess I missed that memo." She stared at him like she was trying to read something in his face. Then she said quietly, "You shouldn't exist." "Thanks," he said dryly. "You're really helping my confidence." But she didn't laugh. Her eyes filled with strange sadness. The prophecy spoke of a man who would come from the ashes of war. Who would save the lost queen? Darren blinked. "Prophecy?" She nodded faintly. "They said he would not know who she was. Not until it was too late." He rubbed the back of his neck. "You're talking like I'm some kind of chosen hero." "Trust me, I'm just trying to get both of us out alive." Her breathing slowed, her body glowing faintly brighter. "Still, thank you, human." He looked down at her, confused. "For what?" "For saving your queen." Before he could answer, her eyes closed and her body went limp in his arms. The light around her flickered, then vanished. "Lyra!" He shook her shoulder, but she didn't respond. He checked his scanner, still a pulse, faint but steady. Relief washed through him. He carried her back toward the ridge, the storm raking behind him. Lightning flashed, revealing dark shapes moving in the distance, alien ships scanning the wreck. He ducked low, clutching her close. "Hang on, princess." he muttered. "Let's keep your secret a bit longer." The wind howled, carrying whispers through the dust voices that weren't his. The queen is found. The prophecy awakens. Darren froze, his skin crawling. What the hell? He looked up at the sky. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw figures in the clouds, tall, shadowed, watching. Then they were gone. He turned and kept moving, every step echoing louder than the last. Somewhere deep inside, a strange certainty formed. Saving her had started something far bigger than either of them. And as the storm faded, the first stars broke through the clouds cold. Bright and listening, the storm had passed. But the air still smelled of smoke and static. Sergeant Darren Cole built a small fire inside a half-collapsed shelter, the only thing left standing for miles. Beside him lay the alien woman Lyra, wrapped in a thermal blanket, her breathing slow, her skin glowing faintly blue in the dim light. Darren watched the flames flicker and muttered to himself, "Queen, huh? What kind of queen crashes in the middle of a war zone?" He looked at her again. She didn't look dangerous, more like someone lost between worlds. Still, her words from earlier refused to leave his mind. "You just saved your queen." When dawn came, her eyes opened. The golden color was softer now, almost human. She looked around, confused, then at him. "You stayed?" "Yeah, you passed out. Didn't want you getting eaten by sand lizards," he said. She smiled faintly. "You joke even in danger." "It's how we survive," he replied. "You feeling better?" She tried to sit up, wincing as she touched the torn edge of her wing. "It will heal." He nodded. "Good, because we have to move. This place will draw patrols soon." She studied him for a moment. "You are human." "A soldier." "Was," he said. "War ended a year ago. At least, that's what command claims. I'm just cleaning up what's left." Lyra looked at the distant sky. "For my people, the war never ends." Darren packed his gear and glanced at her. "So tell me, Queen, what were you doing here?" Her expression changed: fear, sadness, something else. "You should not call me that." "Not here. Why not?" "You said it yourself." "I said too much." She stood slowly, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders. "If they find me, they will kill you too." He frowned. "Who?" "The Regency," she whispered. "My own guard turned against me. They wanted the throne. The ship you founded was my escape. I never reached safety." Darren stared at her, realizing the scale of what she was saying. "So you're really—" "Yes," she said quietly. "Lyra Ann Valora, sovereign of the Veare Dominion. Or what remains of it." He gave a low whistle. "Well, Your Highness, you sure know how to ruin a quiet patrol." She tilted her head. "You mock me again." "Yeah," he said, smiling faintly. "It's another human survival trick." But his smile faded when he heard a faint hum from above. He raised his visor. 3 small drones cut through the clouds, scanning beams sweeping across the desert. "Move!" He barked, grabbing her arm. They ran behind a ridge just as the drones fired, scorching the sand where they'd been seconds ago. Lyra gasped. "They found me already." "Then we keep running." They sprinted across the dunes, the drones following. Darren dropped to one knee, pulled his rifle, and fired 3 clean shots. 2 drones exploded. The third spiraled out of control. Lyra stared at him in shock. "You fight like a machine." "Years of practice," he said, reloading. "But we can't keep this up. We need shelter." She closed her eyes, breathing hard. "There is a sanctuary near the cliffs. My people built it long ago, before the wars. If we reach it, they cannot track us." Darren nodded. "Then lead the way." They walked for hours through the rising heat. The land turned jagged, full of crystal spires jutting from the sand like broken glass. Lyra moved slower now, her steps uncertain. The light from her skin dimmed again. "You're burning out," he said. "My kind draws strength from harmony," she whispered. "From peace. This world has none." He stopped and handed her his canteen. "Drink." She hesitated. "Humans share water even with enemies?" He smiled tiredly. "We share when someone's dying." She took it, her fingers brushing his glove. The moment stretched quiet, warm, fragile dot. Then a distant roar shattered it. Darren spun. From behind the dunes came a massive craft black, smooth, shaped like a blade. Royal insignia marked its side. Lyra's face went pale. "That's the Regent's ship? Your own people?" She nodded slowly. "They think killing me will stop the prophecy." "Prophecy again," Darren muttered. "You really need to explain that." "There was an old vision," she said, "that a human would come from the ashes of war and change the fate of the Dominion forever. The Regent feared it, so he made sure no human could ever reach me alive." Darren stared at her. "Guess I broke that rule." The ship descended, sand swirling around them. Lyra grabbed his hand. "We can't fight them, Darren. We must reach the sanctuary." He tightened his grip. "Then we run again." They dashed into the canyon as beams of red light tore the sand behind them. Rocks shattered, dust filled the air, but they didn't stop. Darren pushed her ahead, heart pounding, lungs burning. Finally, a stone arch appeared ancient, covered in glowing runes. Lyra touched one, and a door of blue light opened. Inside, she cried. They stumbled through as the door sealed behind them. The sound of explosions faded to silence. Darren leaned against the wall, gasping. "You're full of surprises, Your Majesty." Lyra looked at him, her face lit by the soft glow of the sanctuary walls. "You shouldn't have come this far for me." He smiled faintly. "Yeah, I get that a lot." She stepped closer. "You don't understand yet, do you?" "Understand what?" "That saving me was never your destiny," she said softly. "It was mine to save you." Before he could answer, the walls around them pulsed with light, ancient symbols awakening. A low hum filled the air, rising like a heartbeat. Lyra looked up, her eyes wide with awe. "It has begun." The door of blue light sealed behind them, shutting out the roar of engines and the sound of war. Inside the sanctuary, silence spread like mist. Soft light flowed through crystal walls that glowed with colors Darren had never seen. The air felt warm, almost alive, like it was breathing with them. He lowered his rifle slowly. "Where are we?" Lyra stepped forward. Her glow brightened, answering the light around them. "A place older than my kingdom," she said quietly. "The first temple of the Veari, built before we had ships or weapons. A place of memory and truth." Darren looked around, his boots echoing softly on the smooth floor. In the center of the chamber stood a tall pillar of glass, and inside it shimmered a field of stars, turning slowly, endless. "It's beautiful," he said. "It's more than that," Lyra whispered. "It's alive." She walked closer, her hand hovering above the pillar. The stars inside shifted, forming shapes, figures of light, battles, planets breaking apart. Darren saw glimpses of history written in motion. Then the image changed. He saw himself, his armor, his rifle, his face covered in dust, standing beside Lyra beneath a burning sky. He stepped back. "What the hell? How does it know me?" Lyra's eyes shone brighter. "Because it remembers the one who was promised. The human who would end the silence between our worlds." "I don't buy prophecies," he said. "I believe in choices." She smiled faintly. "And yet you made one. You chose mercy. That's why it chose you." The pillar pulsed. Lines of light ran across the walls, forming a map of path leading deeper underground. The air filled with a deep hum, like 1,000 hearts beating at once. Lyra turned toward him. "The sanctuary wants to show us something. Will you come?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Lead the way." They followed the glowing lines through winding corridors. Strange symbols flickered beneath their feet, reacting to Lyra's touch. Darren noticed her movements becoming slower again. The glow in her skin dimmed. "You're weak," he said. "You need rest." She shook her head. "Not yet. The temple calls me. I must finish what my ancestors began." They entered a wide hall, where the ceiling opened into darkness, filled with floating motes of light-like stars frozen mid-fall. In the middle stood a round platform carved with the same runes. Lyra stepped onto it, and the lights gathered above her, forming a massive sphere. Darren watched in silence as a figure of pure light emerged within the sphere, a tall being with wings of fire and a voice that sounded like wind and thunder together. "Lyra Ann Valora," it said, "daughter of the crown, the time has come." Lyra knelt instinctively. "Ancient One, the prophecy awakens. The human stands beside me." The light being looked at Darren. He felt its gaze like heat pressing through his armor. "You walk the line between life and memory, human," it said. "Your heart still remembers mercy in a galaxy that forgot." Darren's mouth was dry. "What do you want from me?" "To finish what we could not. The Ve'ari forgot why they were born to create, not conquer. Only a soul untouched by their greed can wake the light of unity." Lyra looked up. "The unity is real?" "Buried," said the being. "Hidden here until the day one human and one Ve'ari stood as equals." The light dimmed, revealing a small crystal heart floating in the air above the platform. It pulsed softly, rhythm matching their breathing. "Two hearts, one choice," the voice said. "If you join your strength, the wars end. If you refuse, the silence devours all." Then the light faded, and the chamber grew still. Lyra turned toward him, eyes wide. "It's true. The unity core, it's been waiting for centuries." Darren stared at the glowing heart. "You're telling me that thing can end the war?" She nodded. "If it accepts us both." He rubbed his temples. "You know, this is why humans don't like prophecies. Always comes with impossible instructions." Lyra smiled softly. "You fear destiny. I fear losing control," he said. "Every war starts with someone thinking fate is on their side." Before she could answer, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The hum of engines echoed above them. Lyra's face went pale. "They found us again." Darren grabbed his rifle. "You said this place was hidden." "It was," she whispered. "But activating the unity core, it sent a signal." He cursed under his breath. "Then we hauled them off." "No," she said firmly. "You must protect the core. I'll stop them." "Not a chance," he snapped. "I didn't drag you out of a fire just to watch you die in one." She touched his arm gently. "If they destroy me, the prophecy still lives through you. But if they destroy you, there will be no peace." He met her gaze, feeling the weight of it. "You talk like this is already goodbye." Her smile was small and sad. "Sometimes destiny is a path we walk knowing it ends." The noise above grew louder shouts, footsteps, metal striking metal. Lyra stepped back onto the platform, light forming around her. "Go, Darren. Take the core and find the signal tower beyond these walls. Send it to your people. Tell them peace is still possible." He wanted to argue, but the light around her flared bright, pushing him backward. The temple itself seemed to obey her. "Lyra, go." The walls behind him opened, revealing a hidden tunnel of shining crystal. The last thing he saw before running was Lyra standing tall in the beam of light, her wings spreading like fire, Then the door sealed shut as he sprinted through the tunnel with the glowing core in his hands. He heard explosions echoing behind him, and through the comb, her final whisper, "You just saved your queen." Again, E whispered, "The prophecy is real." The tunnel spat Darren out into the open desert just as the first explosions shook the cliffs behind him. He turned once. The sanctuary glowed from inside, light pouring through cracks in the stone like a heartbeat trying to escape. Every pulse sounded like Lyra's voice calling his name. He wanted to go back, but the core in his hands blazed brighter, tugging him forward, as if the whole planet was pushing him toward destiny. Wind ripped across the dunes. The Regent's dropships were already descending, black silhouettes cutting through the morning sun. Their engines howled like hungry beasts. Darren ran. He crested a ridge and saw the ancient signal tower Lyra had mentioned, a skeleton of silver metal rising from the sand, half buried, half alive. Strange vines wrapped its frame, glowing faintly in rhythm with the core. "All right," he panted. "You'd better work." He slammed the core into the central socket. The tower shuddered and screamed to life, sending blue light racing up its length. Electricity danced across the sky. A massive pulse shot upward abeam, stretching into orbit. For a heartbeat, the world went still. Then everything broke loose. Darren dropped to his knees as the first attack drone swept over him. Plasma bolts scorched the sand. He rolled behind a rock and returned fire, his rifle humming with heat. 2 drones fell, burning, but more came. He grabbed a grenade, lobbed it, and dove as the blast tore through the air. He was running low on ammo when a new sound filled the sky, a deep, vibrating hum that made the ground tremble. The Regent's flagship appeared over the ridge, a massive shadow blotting out the sun. "Great," Darren muttered. The big guy himself. A cum signal crackled through his helmet. A voice filled with venom spoke in accented common. "Human soldier, you carry what does not belong to you." "Funny," Darren said, raising his rifle. "People keep telling me that." The voice growled. "Hand over the core and you may live." He smirked. "Sorry, already promised it to someone else." The ship's cannons lit up. The blast hit the tower, shaking the ground. Metal screamed, dust rose in waves, and Darren was thrown backward. His visor cracked, his armor sparked, but he pushed himself up again. He aimed at the tower, praying it still worked. The beam flickered, but held. "Come on, Lyra. Whatever you started, finish it." Then he heard her. A whisper through static, soft but steady. "Hold your ground, Darren. The light is almost ready. Lyra." He gasped. "You're alive." "For now," she said. "But the Regent is inside. He means to destroy everything. Then I'm coming back." "No," she said firmly. "Stay by the tower. Protect the signal. The galaxy must hear it." He gritted his teeth. "You give a lot of orders for someone who's half dead." A faint laugh echoed in his mind. "You liked me that way." He smiled despite himself. "You're impossible." "So are you?" The cum cut out. The next second, soldiers poured from the dropship's armored, faceless, moving with machine precision. Darren took a deep breath. He switched his rifle to full charge, set his boots, and whispered, "For the Queen." The battle that followed was chaos. Plasma bolts rained like meteors. Darren fought through dust and fire, every shot burning through the air. He used every trick he knew rolling behind wreckage, switching to blade when the rifle overheated, using smoke from explosions as cover. But there were too many. A soldier struck him from behind. He fell hard, the core slipping from his grasp. The alien lifted a weapon to finish him and froze. A flash of light shot from the core, blinding white. The soldier screamed and vanished into dust. The core floated now, glowing like a miniature sun. The signal tower's light flared stronger. Spreading across the battlefield. Darren shielded his eyes as a new figure emerged from the beam. Lyra. She looked radiant, her armor of light forming around her like wings reborn. Lyra, he breathed. She smiled sadly. You kept your promise. The Regent's voice thundered from the ship. You cannot unite what was meant to be divided. Lyra raised her hand, and the core answered. Then watch. A shock wave of light burst outward, sweeping across the desert. The soldiers dropped their weapons, falling to their knees as if something inside them broke free. The ships faltered, engines dying. Even the clouds seemed to pause. Darren stumbled toward her. What did you do? I gave them choice, she whispered. The unity binds truth to every soul it touches. They remember who they were before fear ruled them. He reached her just as the light began to fade. Her body flickered, breaking apart into tiny motes of gold. No, he said, catching her as she fell. Don't you dare leave me again. She smiled weakly. My life was tied to the core. Its power is peace, and peace demands sacrifice. He shook his head. There has to be another way. Darren. Her voice trembled. Promise me you'll carry it forward. The light. The dream. He held her close, feeling her heartbeat fade against his chest. I promise. Her hand touched his cheek one last time. You just saved your queen. And she was gone. The light rose from his arms and vanished into the morning sky. For a long time, Darren stood there, staring at the quiet battlefield. No more fire, no more screams. Just silence and sunlight. He turned toward the horizon where the tower still glowed faintly and whispered, Then I'll save your world too. The wind carried her voice one last time, soft as a prayer. Humanity was never your weakness, Darren. It was always your crown. The hidden passage carried Darren upward until cold light spilled through a crack in the stone. He pushed through and stepped into the open. Behind him, the cliffs trembled, the sanctuary still alive, still fighting. He could feel it in the sand beneath his boots, a heartbeat echoing from far below. He looked down at the crystal sphere in his hand, the Unity core. It pulsed softly, matching that same rhythm, as if it were the heart of the planet itself. Hang on, Lyra, he whispered. Don't you quit on me now. The desert was no longer silent. Black dots crossed the sky dropships cutting toward the cliffs. Each one trailed smoke and lightning. The Regent had come in full strength. Darren ran. Wind tore at his armor. His rifle bounced against his back as he climbed the last ridge and found what he was looking for. An ancient tower half buried in stone, its peak broken but still humming faintly with energy. If Lyra's words were true, this was the signal station built to send light. Across worlds. He reached the base and set the core into a round socket at its center. The metal groaned. Sparks crawled across its frame. Then a surge of blue energy raced upward, forming a beam that shot straight into the sky. Clouds split apart. The ground shook like thunder under his feet. Please work, he muttered. Through the storm, voices screamed in another language. Vayari soldiers descending fast. Darren ducked behind a rock as plasma bolts cut across the sand. He returned fire, quick bursts that sent the first attackers spinning down. His armor vibrated with each hit. Heat built behind his shoulders, warning lights flashing red. He pulled back the rifle's power cell and smiled grimly. All right. One last dance. More dropships landed around him. Soldiers poured out, tall and silver-armored, moving in perfect formation. Their weapons hissed with white light. Darren tossed a smoke grenade and charged through the haze, firing, rolling, striking. Every movement was muscle memory, years of war reborn in seconds. When the smoke cleared, he stood alone in a ring of silence. Bodies lay still. His breath came hard, raw. Then a shadow passed overhead. He looked up and froze. The Regent's ship descended like a blade of night, larger than any craft he'd ever seen. It settled on pillars of flame, wind knocking him to his knees. The ship's ramp opened, and a figure stepped out tall, cloaked, his armor black with gold veins. The Regent himself. "You are the human," the alien said, voice deep and cold. "You carry what is mine." Darren raised his rifle. "It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to her." The Regent's eyes glowed like dying stars. "She is gone. You should have left her to die. Not my style." Lightning crashed behind them. The core pulsed brighter, responding to their voices. The Regent extended his hand. Energy coiled around his fingers. "I will tear it from your flesh." He moved faster than Darren could think. A beam of dark light struck the ground, throwing him backward. Pain burned through his armor. He rolled, fired, missed. Another blast split the sand beside him. Through the static in his helmet came a faint, voice-soft, familiar. "Darren," he froze. "Lyra, the core connects us." "I'm still here." "But he's draining its light." "You must hold him back." He clenched his jaw. "Copy that." He ran straight at the Regent. Shots from his rifle sparked uselessly off the alien's shield. The Regent swung a blade of pure energy, cutting through rock like paper. Darren ducked under it, rolled, and fired at the ground near the core. The blast threw up a wave of dust that blinded them both. He charged again, tackled the Regent, and they hit the sand hard. For a moment, man and alien wrestled in silence, grit, sweat, fury. The Regent's strength was monstrous, but Darren fought with something older than power-stubborn human will. "You don't belong here," the Regent hissed. "Guess you don't know humans very well." Darren spat. He slammed a detonator onto the Regent's chest plate and kicked away. The explosion lit the night like a small sun. When the dust cleared, the Regent was still standing, but his shield flickered, cracked. He staggered. Behind them, the signal tower burned with blue fire. Lyra's voice filled the air again, stronger now, echoing through every beam of light. "The Unity is rising." The core floated free from the tower, spinning between Darren and the Regent. The air shimmered. Light gathered, forming Lyra's shape, half solid, half energy, wings spread wide. "Lyra," Darren whispered. She looked at him, smiling softly. "You kept your word." The Regent roared. "This ends now." He raised his blade to strike her image. Lyra raised her hand. The light burst outward. A wave of energy rippled across the desert, washing over everything. The Regent's armor shattered like glass. The soldiers fell to their knees, their weapons dissolving. The wind itself stopped. Darren shielded his eyes. When the brightness faded, only silence remained. The Regent lay still in the sand. Lyra's light flickered weakly. He stumbled forward and caught her as her form faded. "No, no, stay with me." Her fingers brushed his face, warm, soft, fading. "The core has chosen. The light of two worlds will live. Through you. Lyra, please." Her golden eyes dimmed to starlight. "You just saved your queen." Again, and she was gone. The Unity core drifted upward, its glow expanding until the entire sky shimmered with color. Every ship, every soldier, every heart felt the same quiet pulse piece. Darren fell to his knees, staring at the horizon. The storm was over. The war was over. But his heart had never felt heavier. He whispered into the quiet, "I'll carry it for you." The core pulsed once more, then vanished into the sky. The war ended not with a scream, but with silence. For the first time in years, the desert world breathed. Ash drifted down like snow, and the once dark sky shimmered with traces of blue light from the Unity Corps' final burst. Sergeant Darren Cole stood alone at the edge of the dunes, staring at the ruins of the Regent's flagship still burning in the distance. He felt the wind move across his face and realized it no longer carried the smell of death. He lifted his helmet slowly. The air was cool, clean. Each breath felt like a memory returning. Around him, the Vayari soldiers who had once chased him now stood in confusion. Some dropped their weapons. Others simply looked at the sky, their faces unreadable. The Corps' energy had changed them. It had changed everything. Queen Lyra, he whispered, voice breaking a little. You did it. Above, the clouds parted. For a heartbeat, he saw lights swirling together, gold and silver, forming a shape that looked like wings before fading again. He smiled sadly. Yeah, he said softly, still watching. Over the next few days, the world began to heal. Darren helped the wounded human and Vayari alike. He gave water, patched armor, built small fires at night so people could rest without fear. The enemies who once tried to kill him now shared his food and sat in silence beside him, unsure how to speak in a world that no longer demanded war. One evening, a young Vayari soldier approached him, hesitant. Human, she said quietly, our memories? They came back. We saw the Queen. She told us you're the bridge. Darren looked at her tired face and managed to smile. Bridge, huh? Guess that means I'm not done yet. She bowed deeply. For saving her and us, we are in your debt. He shook his head. No debts, just promises. Together, they rebuilt the tower where the Unity Corps had risen. It no longer glowed, but when the wind blew through its hollow metal bones, it made a soft sound almost like Lyra's voice, whispering through the air. The Vayari called it the echo of peace. Months passed. The message the tower had sent reached deep space. Human command received it first. The generals argued. The scientists debated. But when the data showed what had happened, the merging of energies, the ceasefire spreading across entire systems, they could only stare in silence. For the first time, both sides agreed to talk. When the first Terran envoy landed on the planet, Darren was waiting to greet them. His armor was patched, his rifle gone. He looked older, his eyes quieter. Behind him stood the Vayari former enemies turned guardians. The commander stepped forward. Sergeant Cole, she said, you're supposed to be dead. He smiled faintly. Been hearing that a lot lately? She nodded toward the Vayari. They follow you? He shook his head. No, we walked together. Negotiations began. They lasted weeks, words, translations, arguments, but slowly the fear faded. One night, when both camps shared the same fire, a young human pilot asked Darren, do you really believe peace will hold? He stared into the flames. It will, if we keep remembering her. Her? He looked up at the stars. The Queen who gave up everything to show us we were never that different. The pilot fell silent. Later, when the camp slept, Darren walked to the edge of the sea. The waves glowed faintly in the moonlight's soft blue, like Lyra's skin. He placed a small crystal shard he'd found near the old battlefield into the water. It floated for a moment, then sank, leaving ripples that shimmered like starlight. Rest well, Lyra, he whispered. Your dream didn't die. He turned back toward the camp, where humans and Vayari rested side by side beneath the same sky. For the first time, he believed it. Years later, stories spread across both species stories of the human who saved the lost queen, the man who carried the light of two worlds. Some called him a hero. Others called him the keeper of unity, but Darren never used titles. When people asked who he was, he simply said, a soldier who chose mercy. On the 10th anniversary of the peace, the tower on the desert world lit again. No one knew why. It shone for one night only, casting gold and blue light over the dunes. Those who stood near it swore they heard two voices in the winged one human, one Veari laughing softly together. Darren stood at the base, older now, scars hidden beneath a simple cloak. He looked up at the glowing tower and smiled. "Still watching, aren't you?" The light brightened for a moment, as if answering him. Then it faded into dawn. He turned away, footsteps slow in the sand. The war was history. The Queen was legend. But the light she left behind still lived, in every heart that chose compassion over hate. And as the sun rose over the quiet world, once called a battlefield, one truth remained clear in the wind's whisper. Humanity's greatest power was never conquest. It was kindness.